Imagine a world where the color of your skin determines everything. Before the Civil Rights Movement, this was the harsh reality for so many Black Americans. It was a time when, honestly, a promise of freedom felt like a distant, unreachable star. Every day was a struggle, not just for a better life, but for basic dignity and respect. People woke up knowing that the world outside their door was not built for them. They faced obstacles that were designed to hold them back, to tell them they were less than. It was a heavy burden to carry, a silent pain passed down through generations, just waiting for a new day to dawn. This world was governed by cruel and unfair rules known as Jim Crow laws. These laws were everywhere, especially in the South. They created a system called segregation, which means to keep people separate. Black people could not go to the same schools as white people. They could not drink from the same water fountains. They couldn't even sit in the same waiting rooms at a doctor's office. These laws were more than just rules. They were constant, painful reminders that society saw them as different and unequal. They were designed to break the human spirit and enforce a social order based purely on prejudice and fear. Life under these laws was filled with daily injustices. Imagine having to step off the sidewalk to let a white person pass. Imagine being denied a job you were qualified for simply because of your skin color. Black families had to teach their children how to navigate a world that was hostile to them, how to survive in a system that was built to see them fail. It was a constant state of alert, a life where you always had to be careful, always had to know your place. This wasn't just about inconvenience. It was about the deep emotional toll of being treated as if your life didn't matter as much as someone else's. The dream of equality was something people held deep in their hearts. They knew that this was not how life was meant to be. They believed in the promise of America, a nation where everyone is created equal. But the reality they lived was a stark contradiction to that promise. This gap between the dream and the reality created a powerful hunger for change. People started to whisper, then to talk, and then to demand that the nation live up to its own ideals. This growing desire for justice set the stage for one of the most important chapters in American history, a time when ordinary people would do extraordinary things. In this darkness, leaders emerged like brilliant guiding stars. One of the most powerful voices belonged to Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. He was a preacher with a message that touched the soul of the nation. He spoke of a dream, a world where his children would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Dr. King believed in the power of love and nonviolence. He taught that you could fight against injustice without becoming unjust yourself. His words gave people hope. They gave them a new way to think about their struggle, a way to fight with dignity and grace, turning pain into powerful, peaceful action. Another incredible source of courage was a woman named Rosa Parks. One day in Montgomery, Alabama, she was tired. She was tired from a long day of work, but she was also tired of giving in to unfair rules. When she was told to give up her seat on a bus to a white person, she made a simple, quiet choice. She said no. That small act was not just about a seat on a bus. It was a stand for human dignity. Rosa Parks showed the world that one person with quiet strength and conviction could ignite a fire. Her courage sent a powerful message. The time for accepting injustice was over. These leaders, and so many others, shared a powerful idea. They called for peaceful protest. This meant they would not use violence, even when violence was used against them. They would march, they would sit in at lunch counters where they weren't allowed, and they would boycott services that treated them unfairly. This strategy was not about weakness, it was about immense strength. It was a way to show the world the ugliness of hatred without becoming hateful themselves. It was a moral stand that made it impossible for people to look away from the injustice that was happening every single day across the country. Their message of peace inspired millions. It wasn't just famous leaders, it was everyday people who became heroes. It was teachers, farmers, students, and church members. They heard the call for justice and decided to answer it. They organized in their communities, they shared information, and they supported one another. This was a movement of the people, for the people. It showed that when individuals come together, united by a common purpose and a belief in what is right, they create a force that is strong enough to change the world. It was a testament to the power of unity and the human spirit. The Montgomery bus boycott was one of the first great tests of this new movement. After Rosa Parks' brave stand, the Black community of Montgomery decided to act together. They refused to ride the city buses. For 381 days, they walked. They walked miles to work, to school, and to church, in the rain and in the heat. They organized carpools and supported each other through exhaustion and hardship. This wasn't just a protest. It was a powerful demonstration of economic and moral strength. It showed that people, when united, could challenge an unjust system and win. The boycott ended with the Supreme Court ruling that segregation on public buses was illegal. Another unforgettable moment was the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963. More than 250,000 people, both black and white, gathered together in the nation's capital. They came from all corners of the country to demand justice and equality. It was a beautiful, peaceful sea of humanity, all sharing one dream. They stood together in front of the Lincoln Memorial, a powerful symbol of freedom. The march was a message to the government and to the world that the demand for civil rights could no longer be ignored. It was a moment of incredible hope and unity, showing the true power of people standing together. It was at the March on Washington that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. His words soared over the crowd and into the heart of America. He painted a picture of a future where all people could live together in peace and harmony. His speech was not just a complaint about the present, it was a vision for a better future. It was a call to the conscience of the nation, urging everyone to help build a more just and loving society. His dream became the dream of a generation, a powerful anthem for the entire civil rights movement that continues to inspire us. These events were not easy. The people who marched and protested faced incredible danger. They were met with anger, with violence, and with arrest. Yet, they continued to walk, to sing, and to pray. Their commitment to nonviolence in the face of such hatred was a powerful testament to their courage. They were fighting not just for themselves, but for future generations. Each step they took on those long marches, each moment they endured at a sit-in, was an act of faith. It was a belief that a better world was possible, and that they had the power within them to help create it. The tireless efforts of these brave souls brought about monumental change. Their voices, their marches, and their sacrifices led to the passing of historic laws. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a landmark victory. It made segregation illegal in public places and banned employment discrimination. Then came the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which protected the right to vote for all citizens, removing the barriers that had kept so many Black Americans from participating in democracy. These laws were not just words on paper. They were tools that began to dismantle the legal foundation of racism and inequality in America. The movement did more than just change laws. It changed hearts and minds. It opened the eyes of many Americans to the deep injustices that had been ignored for too long. It gave Black Americans a renewed sense of pride, power, and possibility. The world saw ordinary people standing up against overwhelming odds and winning. This incredible story of courage and determination became a source of inspiration for other movements around the globe. It showed that even the most deeply rooted systems of oppression could be challenged by people united in the cause of freedom and justice. It was a victory for all of humanity. Today, on August 3rd, 2025, we live in a world that was profoundly shaped by the sacrifices of the civil rights movement. We see the legacy of that struggle in our schools, in our workplaces, and in our government. The doors that were once closed are now open to so many. However, the work is not finished. The journey to true equality is a long one, and we are still on that path. We see echoes of the past in the challenges we face today. The fight against prejudice, discrimination, and injustice continues. The dream that Dr. King spoke of is not yet fully realized. The most important lesson from the civil rights movement is that change is always possible, but it requires our participation. It teaches us that our voices matter, our actions matter, and that we all have a role to play in building a more just world. The legacy of the movement is a call to action for each of us. It urges us to stand up against injustice wherever we see it, to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves, and to continue the march toward a future where every single person is treated with the dignity and respect they deserve. The journey continues, and it is up to us to carry the torch forward.